Good evening, and welcome to this edition of Time to Face the Facts. I'm Jerry George. This evening, we'll be looking at the question as to whether or not political parties have become so dominant that they are overshadowing other institutions in our societies. We'll find out on this edition of Time to Face the Facts. We'll be right back in just a moment.
If you are serious about business, then log on and participate in Business Advantage. Every Monday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Log on to www.niceradio.info. Business Advantage inspires you to believe that the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. Business Advantage with host Jerry George, mentoring the next generation of Caribbean entrepreneurs. 8 to 10 p.m. Mondays on www.niceradio.info. For further information, email CaribbeanInformationHub@gmail.com. Like the Business Advantage Facebook page or call 1-784-456-5967 to participate.
If you want the eyes and ears of your customers, then there's only one place. Caribvision, the authentic channel for all things Caribbean, bringing you Caribbean news, Caribbean sports, Caribbean entertainment, Caribbean travel, and festivals. Advertise on the Caribvision platform, reaching across the Caribbean in over 21 countries, and now in the U.S. market on Cablevision in the New York tri-state area, and coming soon to Canada and the United Kingdom. Email us at sales@cmccaribbean.com. Caribvision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
As we Welcome back to this evening's edition of Time to Face the Facts. And joining me this evening is Mr. Louis from Grenada, and he certainly is someone who we believe has a lot of information that he can share with us on the question of political parties and their role in governance. Good evening, Mr. Louis.
Good evening, Jerry. It is a pleasure to be here this evening, and I hope we would be able to discuss what political parties' relations to government as it stands now in the Caribbean, where it came from, and what is happening at the moment and where we hope the future will take us.
What experience have you had, if you should start by giving us some of the experience that you have had with political parties?
Actually, I started my political career in 1962 when I supported then the GNP, Grenada National Party, led by, at that time, Hubert Blaise. And I have looked at it over the many years, in, out most times. But after the revolution failed in Grenada, I got quite serious about the political situation and got involved with George Brizan and a few others regarding what we do to sort of salvage a situation that we believe had become beyond the man on the street ability to handle. So we created the NDP, the National, NDP was the National Democratic Party. And that party we started because, of course, the GNP at the time of the revolution did not make any comments, or they were not particularly hard on the ground in any way. So we thought that there was a vacuum. So we created this party. And my experience has been very varied in that after we created that, then the GNP decided that they will come back on, and there was all that determination because there was the GDM led by Francis Alexis, and there was this, fora of political parties. And we thought perhaps it wasn't a good thing for the Grenadian public. So together with Hubert Blaise and the rest, a decision was made that we should have, that the NNP was formed. In a nutshell, this is what happened. and Herbert Blaise led the NNP. Of course, we won then 14 of the 15 seats. But of course, Herbert Blaise's idea was different to some of us, as per usual.
Explain that, expand on that, especially for those people who don't know the history of Grenada's politics.
Well, actually, you know, he had his cabinet. And of course, I was one of those who I was made deputy speaker. And of course, I wasn't particularly keen on being a minister. That's because I had my business, and of course, my whole idea was to give as much assistance as I could have to the development of the democratic process. As a result, the way cabinet functioned, I had a problem with that. In that the cabinet met, those of us who were not members of cabinet were not told what was happening, we didn't get, as far as I was concerned, we should get minutes of what happened. We couldn't take part, but we should know first what has happened in the cabinet so that we can speak about it. It turned out that that was not being done, and that angered me because persons on the outside who had cabinet friends seemed to have known what was happening before those of us who were not in the cabinet knew. I raised it on several occasions, and that didn't seem to bring that didn't give, Blaise didn't pay attention to that, as far as he was concerned. So that angered me, and things start happening, and well, we weren't really knowing what was going on. So having raised it, it turned out that he decided that they would have meetings across the country. My constituency was one of the most difficult constituencies to have won. I won the constituency that Mr. Eric Gary controlled for all the years he had been in politics.
So you mean you're the successor to the venerable Eric Gary?
Have been the successor to
Okay.
And they were asking me to hold a meeting in my constituency, and I know that the people in the constituency were not quite happy with the way things were happening. I held the meeting after much persuasion, and I said to them it was not a good thing. However, it turned out that at the meeting, when they tried to open the meeting, and we had a crowd, and it was said to us, to me, well, you have to talk. I said, yes, I will talk. But wait, let the introduction go. And the people got there, they don't want to hear anybody else. We don't want to hear anybody else. So I said, okay, fine. I will, start talking after. And one guy came on and introduced, and there was furor of confusion. So I went on and I spoke after some persuasion. And it turned out that as I continued, I started first of all to tell them how government operates. And in so doing, they didn't seem to like the stance I took. In other words, I was trying to explain how the government and the cabinet should function. But of course, they weren't interested in that. They wanted to know what was my role. And I said to them, well, obviously, you know that I'm not in the cabinet. And they started to create, what are you going to do? So after some time, I brought and I told them how things were happening and that I wasn't pleased. Then I determined to ask the question, what do you require me to do? Should I continue to stay in the government as it is, or should I leave? And the cry came out, leave. So and then I turned around and said, should I leave the parliament also? In other words, resign completely. They said, no, go in opposition. So, I had my constituents telling me that I should leave the government side, leave the government bench, and go in the opposition. So that I did, of course. I had to listen to them. The truth is, Jerry, the days following, my telephone, of course, was not, it never ceased ringing. I had calls from the United Kingdom, I had calls from Australia, I had calls from India, where persons who were in government were asking how, you know, it seems to me that perhaps I was the first one in the Commonwealth that went to a constituency and had the constituency tell me what to do. So having left, I went on the opposition side. And having gone on the opposition side, there was one opposition representative in the parliament at the time. I got the support of another guy who had more or less been disenchanted too. And obviously, and then I became leader of the opposition for a while. So there I was as leader of the opposition. In the meantime, there was George Brizan, Francis Alexis, the very Tillman Thomas. A few of them, after a time, they got disenchanted with Blaise also and left. And we all joined in the opposition. And well, as that happened, it became obvious that we would have had to do something. And that something was now to create a party.
That's the point. It seems that that is the only way, at least some people say in the system that we have, that people could get any sense of recognition. The truth of the matter is the Constitution does not have anything to do with political parties. How and why?
Well, the Constitution has nothing to do with political parties, like you say, and that is a fact. Now, how do you get around to that? Because the Parliament recognizes individuals,
Right.
right? So there we are. You're not in that grouping that won the election. You have come out of it. You are an independent person. And that is why, I suppose, it isn't possible for the Parliament to throw you out. You still
Because you have a right by
because
your
you have a right
elected position.
having been elected. You are there. Not the political party. The political party is not recognized. Mm-hmm. So we being there, we group ourselves together again and decided we would create a party.
Okay, hold right there. We should have online joining us Mr. Peter Wickham. Peter, you there?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether you're hearing me, though.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether you're hearing me.
What I'm hearing you? I think I'm hearing you. I just need to get the volumes up a little bit, but yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, well, I was only able to pick up the last part of the conversation because the reception on my side is not the best.
Okay.
But I'm getting the impression that the discussion is revolving around the extent to which the political party has to be the focus of all major activity in our system.
Yes, and in fact, what we want to look at in this discussion, in this program today, is why it is it seems that the party is becoming more and more paramount. In fact, literally throwing every other institution, it seems, behind it. I don't know if you, in your role as a political analyst, have found this to be true.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree that this has been happening increasingly, and I think it has a lot to do with the size of our country, the size of our parliaments. I think the political parties that we operate within have really been designed for a slightly larger political environment. You know, the United Kingdom would be the place from which we took our political movement. So you take the political party system that was intended to be buttressed by a social network, a civil society, and so on, in the place of like the United Kingdom, where you have a parliament that has a few hundred, and you drop that into a place where you have a parliament, in some cases, of 21 people. And I think this is the basic reason why our parties have become so paramount, because they're not really designed to operate within these kind of limited arrangements.
You said that, Peter, and let me just read something that I have found here. It says the small parliaments, averaging 16 seats in the Eastern Caribbean, and even in the larger islands of Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago, numbering only 60 and 30 respectively, do not usually afford sufficient numbers to enable an efficient government, legislative oversight, and vigorous opposition. So this is somebody's, Mr. Gordon Hines in Guyana, from a paper that he wrote some time ago.
Right. I guess that he and I are on the same track. Because my sense is that, as I've seen it operate in the places like St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, where they have, what, 8 and 3 seats. It's one of the smallest parliaments certainly in the Western Hemisphere, and it's operating in an environment where a shift of 3 people can actually make a difference in terms of the political fortunes of the entire country. So the leadership becomes paramount, and the leadership is essentially able to hold on to the political party and use it in whatever way it sees fit. I mean, the Grenada example has also been a very interesting one. I was listening to that just now. Grenada, again, a small parliament, and the fact that you have now, well, all of the seats being won by one party, the party becomes even more paramount, and the leader similarly. So, yeah, I mean, we have systems that are designed where the political party should be a convenient reference point, but what we do have is a political system in which the political parties have essentially become so paramount, and they control and determine how everything happens.
But is this good for democracy? Because literally what we're saying, the party, though not a creature of the Constitution, is seemingly a byproduct of the Westminster system.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't think it helps democracy at all. In larger political environments where you have an active and functioning backbench, in the United Kingdom, for example, you have a few MPs, a few hundred MPs in some instances, who can develop and formulate their own ideas and their own opinions and so on. We have a situation in Barbados now where Parliament has, on the government side, has 2 backbenchers. There are many places where there's no backbench in Parliament on the government side. You have 2 backbenchers, one of whom is Deputy Speaker, the other one of whom is Chairman of the committees. I mean, ultimately, you can never really have the development of any opinion that's independent of the political party, or alternatively a left or right wing of the political party. In the United Kingdom, you have political parties that have a diversity of opinion on the front and the backbench, and the backbench have a life of their own, and I think that acts as a check and balance on the front bench. But in most parliaments in the Caribbean, that's entirely unheard of. If you're a member of Parliament, you're a member of the front bench, you are in the cabinet, you're subject to parliamentary, the cabinet collective responsibility. And when you put that together with the party whip, you have an awesome amount of power that's being concentrated in the hands of one person, and there's really no opportunity for independent thought to develop. So if you may have a renegade MP who may say, well, look, maybe we need to pull back in relation to this issue, it will never work within our system because you only have one way, which is the leader's way.
Mr. Louis has an experience that he spoke with me earlier today. Would you mind sharing it, Mr. Louis, about when you dissented?
Well, it happened, the government was selling the majority shares in the electric company. And I look at the purchase agreement, and there were certain conditions in it which I thought was not in the best interest of the Grenadian people. And 6 weeks prior to the date when this document was going to go to the Parliament, I made my objections and observations about the document, that the purchase agreement, and indicated that these concerns that I raised, I felt that it was necessary to be addressed in the interest of the Grenadian people. It did not, nothing was done. the day prior to the document going to the Parliament, we had a cabinet meeting, and I made the point that the fact that they had not addressed my concerns, which I thought was quite legitimate, I said I would have a problem voting for the measure. The morning came, and they said they would, of course, at cabinet, they said that they were going to do something about it, hoped they were going to do something about it. The morning in the Parliament, the document was put in front of me, not in the way in which I thought it could have been corrected. So I indicated, obviously, I will not go along with it. And it came up to be voted on after discussion. I said what I felt. When the time came for voting, I decided I would not vote for it. And so the vote went. The opposition obviously voted against. The other members of the cabinet voted in favor. I abstained.
Why didn't you vote against? Why didn't you vote against?
I did not vote against it because I thought it was possible to bring good reason to bear, because I thought...
But 6 weeks had passed.
6 weeks had passed. But the fact is, here was the opposition getting an opportunity also. The opposition in Parliament getting an opportunity also to look at the document. And they haven't made their claims. I felt I should not have voted against, but do something that could have brought about a correction. And what I did was, instead of not voting and by abstaining, what I did, I got there and put a motion that a select committee of the House, together with members of the opposition, can sit down, because as far as I'm concerned, this is a Grenadian issue. Whether you're in government or you're in opposition, you should have a say on an important matter like this.
Hold. We're going to our first break on this edition of Time to Face the Facts. We're looking at the role of political parties in governance, and are they overarching? We'll find out. Stay with us. Don't go away.
It's the end of the month again. My son's rent is due.
Sending money to your children studying overseas is easy. Western Union's safe and reliable service lets you transfer money everywhere in the world.
My son is doing well at school. That makes me proud.
Western Union, moving money for better.
Agents in Grenada, Rennick Thompson and Company, with locations in Grenville, Sauterres, Guelph, Grand Anse, the Carenage, Bruce Street, and Carriacou.
If you want the eyes and ears of your customers, then there's only one place. Caribvision, the authentic channel for all things Caribbean, bringing you Caribbean news, Caribbean sports, Caribbean entertainment, Caribbean travel, and festivals. Advertise on the Caribvision platform, reaching across the Caribbean in over 21 countries, and now in the U.S. market on Cablevision in the New York tri-state area, and coming soon to Canada and the United Kingdom. Email us at sales@cmccaribbean.com. Caribvision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
If you are serious about business, then log on and participate in Business Advantage. Every Monday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Log on to www.niceradio.info. Business Advantage inspires you to believe that the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. Business Advantage with host Jerry George, mentoring the next generation of Caribbean entrepreneurs. 8 to 10 p.m. Mondays on www.niceradio.info. For further information, email CaribbeanInformationHub@gmail.com. Like the Business Advantage Facebook page or call 1-784-456-5967 to participate.
Welcome back. This is Time to Face the Facts. And the fact we're looking at today is it a fact that political parties in the region are dominating the governance of our region. Joining me today is Mr. PHINSLEY Louis from Grenada, and on Google Hangout with us is Mr. Peter Wickham. Peter, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I just want to read another quotation for you. The Caribbean elite has abused the Westminster arrangement, it says, inherited at independence, and in the process stripped them of all their democratic clothing. Because Westminster in the Caribbean has become a tool of dictatorial governance, and it cannot facilitate the democratic solutions the region badly needs. Your thoughts on a statement like that?
Yeah, this statement seems to be a fair reflection. You know, what I think is happening is that in the Caribbean, we have caught up with ourselves. In almost every Caribbean island, you have an intelligentsia that is consisting of people who are extremely well educated, who go overseas, who study, who go to UWA, who study, who are professionals in their own right. And when we see a situation that occurs where it appears as though 10 or 15 men together in a room make all of the fundamental decisions that affect the management of our country, it bothers most of us. You know, in Barbados now we are in the throes of a structural adjustment program, and we are being told that the only legitimate entity that can make decisions in terms of our future is the Cabinet of Barbados. The Cabinet of Barbados makes decisions on behalf of the political party, the DLP, and they have the right to make decisions on behalf of all of us. And I think that what has happened in the Caribbean is that we've caught up with ourselves. And I think that in many instances we now find this odd, and we say to ourselves, if you have people in this country that can run multi-million-dollar companies, people who are accountants, who are investment bankers and have different other professions, why should they not be also involved in the management of their affairs of the country? And in
Peter,
many instances, a lot of the ideas need to come to the fore. Yeah.
Peter, but isn't that based on the premise that at elections we give the governing party a mandate? Doesn't that mandate therefore give them,
we give them a mandate, but
the right to do anything?
What we have found is that mandate, of course, but what we have found is that mandate seems to give the right to do just about everything. And I think that in many instances in Caribbean society, and I'm just reading what I see from people, that people feel that they want to be able to take unto themselves more responsibility to get involved in the management of the day-to-day activities in many instances. In the same way that if you look at the management of the affairs of the United States of America, United Kingdom, you see a level of transparency and you see the opportunity for the involvement of the individual in all levels. That is something that we find quite fascinating. If you look at the way the American system operates, you have decisions being taken by individuals by way of a popular vote at the individual. The station comes before. If you look at the initiatives in California for the decriminalization of ganja, I mean, that has come essentially from the people.
Okay, we seem to have lost Peter there for a bit. Okay, but Peter agrees that in countries where we have people often with a lot of training. Let's go to the question of how people are selected for their roles in Parliament. Let's talk about that for a bit.
Well, as you know, the Prime Minister, after he wins the election, the Prime Minister has the right to determine who he puts in which ministry and how he determines that. That is his prerogative. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I suppose in some cases he will discuss with them who go where. I suppose in the case of Grenada, as it is now, as it happened, the Prime Minister then having won all the seats, I believe he found himself in a difficult situation because everybody probably wanted ministry and he couldn't put 15 ministers.
But let's talk about everybody wanting a ministry. Oftentimes, the people who put themselves up, I'm going to say this at the risk of probably being knocked over, many of them have very little experience in business, in management, and so forth. But suddenly, they are ministers.
That has been a great problem for us in the Caribbean. Because, like you say, the guy who could lime well on the pavement and who is good on the ground He has no idea about, he wins the seat. Becomes minister. He knows everything then, but knows nothing really. And so what happens? The government ends up with washy-washy.
But hold on, we might say that true about the person who is just a guy lineman on the block. But it's also true about people who are academic.
That's right. You have, I was coming to that.
Okay.
The fellow who is academic, he is academic, but he has no idea of running business. And government is the biggest business in the country. So he gets there, and because perhaps he's a good orator, he speaks well and that sort of thing, people vote for him. He might be, I have seen lawyers go to in Parliament, but they have no business acumen, and while they could interpret law, that doesn't say that they understand how to run the country.
But isn't that where we came from? After the colonial days, it seems that we elected lawyer after lawyer after lawyer based on the fact that perhaps they could interpret the law and they could get us away from colonialism. And that became the basis on which many of them got leadership.
Yes, but what has happened? When you look at it, when you look at our parliaments and you look at what has happened, you look at our countries, are we better off?
Well, it's a question we need to ask.
Are we better off today? Huh? I have looked at some of the decisions that have been taken, and they are non-decisions because you have actually gotten nothing but frustration from most of them. When you look at, take for example, it is said that agriculture forms the basis, or should be the basis and background for our development in the region. Because all that we have is the rock that God put us on. And what happens? In years gone by, take Grenada for example, years gone by, we used to ship traditional crops to the tune of like 8 crops. Today, cocoa perhaps, and some nutmeg. We have nothing else shipping. We had cinnamon, clove, coconut, limes, bananas, nutmeg. We had cotton from Caribvision, and all these. The industries have all fallen in. That's out.
Let me see if Peter is back there, and he can. Peter, you back there?
I'm not sure. If you hear me, I am.
Yes, you are. Peter, we were talking about the fact that, really and truly, when you look at how the parliament is composed, it seems that the guy who has a good following on the block gets into parliament, no particular experience. On the other side of the coin, the academic, the person who has no experience in running a business, also gets in there. How has this affected the management of our economies in the past?
Yeah. Well, no, I think that the system worked quite well in the past before our economies changed and evolved in the way that they were, because I think in bygone days, a guy who was a lawyer or academic or whatever, who had the requisite assistance or support from a public servant, could do a fairly good job. But I think our societies have evolved now in a completely different way. Information is readily available, the internet is there, and there's so much information that's available to the average individual. I think that our expectations of what society can do has changed, and we have a logical feeling that we should become more involved in day-to-day decision making because we know so much more about what was happening. So I think that in the past, those systems work reasonably well because that's how societies were structured. I think that currently there's really no excuse for not having a greater involvement of the average person in the street. And I think, again, as you look at more developed societies, civil society structures are there for their participation.
Let's talk about civil societies for a bit there, because what it seems is that even the international community seem to give more credence to civil societies than they do political parties. But if one is honest, and you've looked at what has happened in some of these countries over the years, even the civil societies have been taken over by the political party because there are plants in the civil society. Have you seen that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very much the case. And I think if you look at, for example, the way that the Economic Partnership Agreement has been negotiated, if you look at any other major trade agreement, there's a seat for civil society in the process, because we appreciate that that's pretty much the way that it has to operate. The problem, however, that at our level, in our country, we don't really contemplate that civil society will be involved in this way. You know, I mean, you ask yourself, if you look at, and I use St. Kitts as an example because it really is a micro-state, the role of civil society in terms of the function of their government is almost zero. But yet still, St. Kitts will articulate with a larger international environment that has an assumption that civil society will be involved there. So this is really the contrast that keeps presenting itself over and over again. And I think it really just demonstrates that our societies have not kept pace with the way that our people are developing. You know, I mean, we've given all of this free education and so on, and you have developed a human resource component, and we're not exploiting it, we're not using it in the way that we should. And I think that really would be the role that a mature civil society should play in a mature society.
But how can we, because civil society is actually there, hopefully to have drawn into its coffers people who come from a broader strata of society. So why are we failing also to have our civil society groups really deliver what they ought to us? Why?
I don't think they can. I mean,
they can't.
They can't because there's only so much they can do. I don't think they can, no. I mean, I ask myself, if you look at any major issue, for example, we have this discussion now on the state of the Barbados economy and the direction and whatnot. You have an organization, the Barbados Economic Society, that is putting forward proposals on what government ought to do, and has been doing that for the last year, suggesting that government ought to have been acting, and it's been ignored. And basically what happens is that people who are in this environment get fed up with the fact that you essentially are just making recommendations, nobody listening to you, so eventually you stop. So unless there are facilities created whereby persons outside of political parties can function and make a contribution, it doesn't work. And I'd go further and tell you, Jerry, that even within political parties, you have agencies within political parties that youth arms and women's movements and whatnot. They don't make a contribution either. I mean, they're used for window dressing, but I am not convinced that there is an active youth movement that makes a contribution to the development of policy and whatnot within any of the political parties. So the whole image is a bit of a big leap, quite frankly. But Jerry, I'm having some challenges hearing you. And also, I don't know if you are hearing me as well as you should, because I'm just hearing a whole lot of static all the time. I'm wondering whether it wouldn't be a good idea to terminate my contribution to this discussion.
Don't go too fast. We're hearing you loud and clear. I know you might be struggling to hear us, but we're hearing you loud and clear. And clearly you are hearing me when I speak to you.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
But you're coming through very clear, absolutely clear. The static might be another issue, but you're clear. Now, you have had reason, because one of the papers I read during the week, written from somebody in university, quoted you quite a lot on this issue of political parties. Clearly it is something that you have written about a lot in your column. When did you first recognize that we have an issue with respect to political parties and their overreach?
I probably would date it back to the 1991 period, when I actually belonged to a political party at the time. And we were grappling with a serious economic crisis. And I realized that at that point in time, all of the ideas that we had about what political parties could do and the contribution that they could make, it went through the window, because you're a voice crying in the wilderness, nobody listening to you. And I think that from that point onward, as I've grown and researched more, I've been realizing that this thing is just it's not really working out in the way that it should. The constitution of the political parties in most Caribbean countries, with the possible exception of Trinidad and Tobago, I believe, where the leader is popularly elected, has a leader that's elected by a delegate system. And I mean, a delegate system in this environment allows a leader essentially to be a dictator virtually. The leader can co-opt people onto his general council. He can maintain himself in power. And the the political party is no check and balance. So you don't have an upward movement of philosophy and ideas that guides the leader. The leader essentially determines what he wants, and the political party supports it. So it's almost an association of yard foes, as we call them in Barbados, in a rather craft way. And it makes you wonder whether or not this political party that we talk so much about is performing the role it should be. I mean, I look at the political party in the United Kingdom, both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. And the Labour Party is now taking the bold steps since Tony Blair to elect the leader popularly. So you have a leader that's subjecting himself to an election process where hundreds of people come together in a convention and choose him. We have leaders in both the DLP and DLP and Barbados that are chosen by delegates. And it's almost farcical, quite frankly, because these are democratic organizations, and they're choosing their leadership in a way that it's not really democratic when you think about it, because I don't think there's anything democratic about a delegate system. But again, that system was designed for a different era, and an era that I think we have evolved out of now.
Listen.
So I've been thinking about these things for a while and writing about them. Yeah.
No, it's clear. I can see the volume of work that you have put into this. But what has happened is that the paramountcy of the party also leads to the paramountcy of the leader. And that is one of the things that I believe in the Caribbean that we're struggling with at this point. That's my own feeling. How do you, in fact, let me bring in Mr. PHINSLEY Louis here. What is your view on that?
My view is I agree with a statement that George Brizan made in his book, Grenada Island of Conflict. And I will quote. He says, when members of a political party witnesses wrongdoings within the party and fail to correct, resist, condemn, and advise against such wrongdoings, they are contributing to the very destruction of the party by their inaction and silence. Now, I believe in this, that while in fact the political party helps the parliamentarian to get into the office, the parliamentarians take unto himself now that will that he has full mandate to do any and
You're talking about the parliamentarian generally or the leader?
The leader. Generally, he seemed to get the idea that he has full will to do whatsoever he wants with the country. And that, in my opinion, is where it's wrong, because the members of the party and even his ministers ought to be able to say, no, this is not where we intended to go. This is not what we have in our manifesto.
But if any minister or group of ministers even has the idea in their head, have the idea in their heads, you know and I know what happens in our current system. They're sidelined.
It's all right to be sidelined for what is correct, you know.
That brings me to the point. What happened when you objected? Finish that story for us.
When I objected, I put a motion in Parliament that, like I said, that we bring a select committee to look at the document. The opposition voted with me on it after discussion, obviously, because the numbers, my motion lost. So the document went through. After that, my colleagues decided that I was like a maverick, But I was, in my own opinion, I felt comfortable, quite frankly, for what I did. Because today, the very electric company has got such a mandate, has got such control, that it is impossible to bring in any other method of supplying electricity to the country, because they have got it, I think it is for 60 years, I can't remember the, and no other entity can come in. Now we have solar.
Yeah.
Nobody can come in with solar. Nobody can come in with wind. It has to be them. Now perhaps, and time will bear me out, if they had listened, we might have gotten that, the years might have been reduced, or we might have been able to see where the future takes us, rather than to have agreed with what was on the purchase agreement.
Okay, we must take our second break here on this edition of Time to Face the Facts. And we are looking at the roles that political parties play in our region and in our governance. A little bit in the program, we'll be taking your calls. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
If you are serious about business, then log on and participate in Business Advantage. Every Monday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Log on to www.niceradio.info. Business Advantage inspires you to believe that the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. Business Advantage with host Jerry George, mentoring the next generation of Caribbean entrepreneurs. 8 to 10 p.m. Mondays on www.niceradio.info. For further information, email CaribbeanInformationHub@gmail.com. Like the Business Advantage Facebook page or call 1-784-456-5967 to participate.
If you want the eyes and ears of your customers, then there's only one place. Caribvision, the authentic channel for all things Caribbean, bringing you Caribbean news, Caribbean sports, Caribbean entertainment, Caribbean travel, and festivals. Advertise on the Caribvision platform, reaching across the Caribbean in over 21 countries, and now in the U.S. market on Cablevision in the New York tri-state area, and coming soon to Canada and the United Kingdom. Email us at sales@cmccaribbean.com. Caribvision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
It's the end of the month again. My son's rent is due. Sending money to your children studying overseas is easy. Western Union's safe and reliable service lets you transfer money everywhere in the world. My son is doing well at school. That makes me proud. Western Union, moving money for better.
Agents in Grenada, Rennick Thompson and Company, with locations in Grenville, Sauterres, Guelph, Grand Anse, the Carriage, Bruce Street, and Carriacou.
Welcome back to Time to Face the Facts. With me in studio is Mr. PHINSLEY St. Louis, and on the Google Hangout, all the way from France, is Mr. Peter Wickham. Peter, you there? Peter, you there? Okay, we seem to have lost Peter momentarily. But let me come to the question of the structure of the political parties, because often there's that business of a lack of transparency. Let's go straight to the issue of financing. How are political parties financed, and how transparent is this financing of the political party?
Political parties are usually financed by, of course, when we started our party, neither of us had any great amount of money, but obviously we put in what we had, and we had a document that got people interested. Perhaps I should tell you how we formed the party.
Yeah, sure.
The party, after we got there and decided we have to have a party, we went around the island and got in several groups from different constituencies, and bring together persons to determine what and how that political party should be structured. Then we had one final meeting where we brought everybody together, and we formed out a document which was Let the People's Voices Be Heard. And out of that document, we decided to put the Constitution. So we had two documents. One, Let the People's Voices Be Heard, that said several things, and out of that came the Constitution of the party. Now, that having happened, it meant that then we should go to a convention. We went to the convention, and the party was formed. That having happened, we started now to get people interested, more persons become interested, and so we did functions, we raised funds, persons who were willing to put in money. There were people who had money in the country and were willing to support the party. So they were willing to put in money.
But it's that I'm
And
talking
they did
about. That process of people putting monies, is there a proper accounting system held within the party? Does the membership of the party get a proper financial statement of the party?
In the time we were there, we had an accountant. We had the accounts done. The accounts were done properly. We were able to have a report from the treasurer and that sort of thing. We had a structure, and the structure worked. Whatever money we got, we put it in, and it was accounted for. When you go to an election, obviously there are persons who would like to support a particular candidate, and they would give that candidate money. Now, to say that you must legislate or it is difficult, because like one will get funds because I want to support PHINSLEY St. Louis. So here, man, I'm giving you $500 or giving you $3,000 to support your campaign, right? Whatever money I would have had myself, I put in. So you get that. The party will do functions, raise funds from its functions. Then it will support those persons who are in more need than others. So it's not that, okay, this guy is doing well and he has money and you're going to still give him money. The party is supposed to look to see who is struggling for funds.
Operative word there, the party is supposed to. Is that really what happens?
Well, this is what in my time I know happened.
Okay.
When I was there.
You haven't named the parties yet that you
I'm talking about the NDC.
The NDC,
Yes.
the party that just left government?
Yes, because I was a founder of that party.
Oh, you were?
I was a founder of that party. So this is how it functioned, and that is how we raised funds, and that is how we got funds. When the election was called, there were sufficient persons of means who were willing to support the campaign and did pledge and put in funds.
Those funds, do they go to an account that is
They
managed?
go to the party's account.
They go to the party's
To the party's account.
And all the membership of the party has an idea?
And, well, the account, they do have a return, a statement of account.
Okay.
And that is done. That used to be done. I don't know now and what has been happening. I cannot say that I understand, because I have not been, like I say, having come out of government in 1995, I didn't take part until 2012. So I don't know what happened in the interim.
But having said that, how important do you think it is for there to be proper financing of the political party? Since the political party today, we agree, has such reach in the society, has this paramountcy that is now becoming evident, how important is the financing and transparency within the party structure?
Well, that is, well, to me, it is important. I mean, you are talking about, it's a business anyhow.
Yeah.
It is a business, and you should run it like a business, right? There are some members who will not have as much to run their campaign. So the party would be able, if it has funds, it's supposed to look to these fellas to help these candidates, to help them, right? Now, that is what I understand, and that is how I know it has been. And that is how, in my opinion, it should be. Now, there was a problem, not a problem, but a statement that was made by the present Prime Minister when the other government was in office, the previous government was in office, in that the Prime Minister got a donation of $50,000 from some foreign organization or person who decided to give him that to support the party. He took the money, had to sign off on it in the bank what the money was for. As you know, if you get money, you got to say where it comes from. So that was there, and he signed saying that he received these funds for the use of the political party. That was written on the document. I saw it. The present Prime Minister in opposition declared that it was not $50,000, but it was $150,000. Now, I went on air and tried to say, well, look, I have seen the document where $50,000 was given to this man. And here is the opposition leader saying it's $150,000. Let him come and prove that. Obviously, nothing is done.
But isn't that the nature of politics? Because the current Prime Minister would have had his own share of such things too, accusations.
No, but you see, I believe it is not right to color something in a way in which you can pull somebody down, because it has not been so. The document showed that
I agree with you, and I agree with you for the transparency and for the honesty of how we frame people. But isn't it what we encourage? And particularly in the political party, the leader says so, and the rest of the party just reverberates that, and it becomes accepted fact.
But this is why I said to the Prime Minister then, take this thing further, because you need to prove that what the opposition leader at the time was saying is not correct. Go to the FIU, right? And let them investigate him. Let them ask him, show me the document, because he went up on a political platform and said, I have the document showing $150,000. But the Prime Minister then was not the kind of person who would get there. But to me, this is what was necessary to be done. Prove what you're saying to be true as against what I have said.
Okay, let me, at this point, just point our listeners and our viewers to the television screen where the numbers are listed that you can call, and we'll be taking your calls. Feel free to call us. You're part of this discussion. You have to tell us what you have found and how the political parties, wherever you are, you feel is affecting the governance where you are. So, but again, it's the kind of gutter politics and that we have almost institutionalized in the region.
That is the problem.
But are we really making any moves to change that?
Well, I would hope that the young people will make a difference, because I have been looking at, they do have junior parliament sittings at home as mock parliaments. And I have been looking at how the young people have been presenting their topics and their debates. It looks to me like we have a good crop of young people coming that probably will want to put back some dignity in politics, because I think it has lost it. And as a matter of fact, I look at, even we are in the Westminster system, and I know things haven't changed. We had a clerk in Parliament who was Curtis Strawn. He eventually became Speaker of the House. That man was so careful about how the system run that even those persons who come as visitors had to come with a hat on their head, right? Now I see members sit around the table, women sit around the table with their bare head. Now that was not done, and the Westminster system hasn't changed. I see the young people who have been going to these junior parliaments as preparing for parliament. They come dressed properly. They come with their hats and they behave well, different to how the elected members have been behaving. So I hope.
But do you really think it will continue? If the sitting members are any examples to them, they might be being coached now. But if they think that that's the example of the sitting members, what hope do we have that they won't fall away? Are
you saying that we just go to the dogs and continue to go to the gutter?
I hope not. Believe you me, I hope not.
I hope this is what your program is hoping to do, to infuse dignity.
I agree.
Once more in the parliament and in the management of our country.
Absolutely, you got it right.
I really do have a problem with it myself. Looking at
a lot of that is supported because when a representative in the House, for example, gets on their soapbox in the House and they carry on, they know that whatever they do is supported by the political party members outside of the House. And therefore, there is really nobody to buffer and say, well, no, that shouldn't be done because of the power that the political party now have.
Well, you see, the members in the political party and like I quote Brizan just now, they are not supposed to condone the members who are not in parliament. They are not supposed to condone the wrongs that the parliamentarians do.
But have you heard the expression, you should not wash your dirty linen in public?
It's not a question of washing dirty linen in public. It's a you don't have to go in public to wash it. You can, you can get there and you do have your executive meetings. And at the executive meetings, you must be able to air your views and to say what you think is wrong and what is right.
I agree with that in principle. But isn't it a creature of the structure that we now call the political party? That literally the leader can do nothing wrong? That anything goes? Because as long as you could garner the support, the active support of the membership, doesn't matter what you do, you're right.
I suppose I'm different. I suppose I'm different because I will speak my piece. I have spoken my piece, will speak my piece, because I cannot say that I am proud of what we have now as against what we had many years ago.
Remember, we're taking your calls. The numbers are on the screen, so please feel free to give us a call on this edition of Time to Face the Facts. The role of political parties in governance, what has been your experience? Share that with us, please.
What's been happening is that there seems to be a struggle all the time in political parties now to get to the head, to get the leadership position. And so persons who are at the bottom level or just below the leader see how they can couch themselves in positions to get the leadership of the party. And that is what, in my opinion, has brought about the demise of even the revolution
in Grenada.
You look at the revolution and you see it happen. You look at the Blaze, the NNP, that happened. You look at it now in the NDC and you see a big split in the NDC. Some had to go. There seemed to be always this.
Well, the structure and the system we have is the winner takes it all. Yes. And as I said, the structure helps the concept of the paramount leader. So one, I guess, supposed to understand why that is happening. The question that we need to pursue now is, how could we change this?
It is something that, well, to change it, I believe persons have to have their own dignity. You have to determine what you want. That you have to change the whole modus operandi of people in order to get this changed. I don't think it can come from without. It has to come from within to get it changed. And I believe this quest for power. Because, you know, once you get into office, you say, I am now in power.
Yes.
You know, I'm now in power.
It's not an office, it's
power. It's not the office now, it's the power. And that is what, to my mind, is the wrong statement to be made, because you are supposed to be the servants of the people. The people are supposed to be your bosses. And to me, the people doesn't even realize that.
Why not?
I don't know. You tell me, because you have been in the business.
You have been in the business.
When I say you've been in the business, you have a lot of experience seeing it yourself as you go along. Because sometimes you are in it and you don't feel it. But I feel it because I know that this is a problem.
But that's why the party and the party structure is what it is, because the paramount leader now is so powerful that everybody wants to get close to this power because they can benefit from the power.
They become afraid of the power.
One thing is to be afraid of it. The other thing is to get close so that they can benefit from this person who can dispense power.
Right. Is this question of position, and in my opinion, and I will say it, is greed. Right? Because you look to yourself, what I can get out of it. It's not, when you get there and you campaign, it's what you want to do for the masses. That's what you say.
What you say.
That's what you say. I want to do this for the masses. But when the time comes and you get there now, is what can I get out of it? And that is how it seems to have come down. What can I get out of it? I know I went into government and I got nothing out of it but poverty because I ended up in debt. So I remember one day, you know, I was walking the Caribvision. We had lost. It was about 6-8 months after my party came out of government. My banker met me on the Caribvision. We were walking, I was walking. He called me and said, "Finsley, you weren't in government." I said, "How?" He said, "Well, some banker comes, I see you couldn't have been in government." I don't know who you're talking about.
The others who benefited from being in government.
You understand? From being in government, you see?
But some people might say you're foolish.
Yes, but I don't mind being called foolish. Because I can walk the street, I feel good, I can hug everybody on the street, I can be, you know, and I'm a friend to everybody still. There are some of them who cannot do that.
Mr. St. Louis, here's what. You had a business, and so you understood what that meant. You could have gone back to your business. But a lot of the people that we're attracting to the political front today come with nothing.
That's another point. And they want to get everything, you see.
In 5 years.
That's right. I might say that I have looked at it over time, and there should be, like you asked, what can we do? There should be some checks and balance. There's always the question of getting into office and this question of declaring assets. Declare your assets. I have heard it said over time, but it seemed never to happen. This government has come in again and it is saying everybody has to declare their assets. And it will go like a yo-yo.
No, because we say these things because,
it sounds good.
The masses who are often not critical and don't look or even read. Right on this set, I found out something that was very telling. I had at that time Mr. Affa Raymond, and we were talking on the issue of corruption. The point he made was this: Trinidad and Tobago has all the legislation against corruption. Barbados, where we are, has none. Barbados sits number 6 in Transparency International. Trinidad and Tobago is way down the list. So it goes to show that legislation is not the answer, although it is often presented as a solution. So how do we get people of integrity?
Well, you see, as you speak, it reminds me of what happened recently in Trinidad. Jack Warner's name is branded all over the place like a man who is not, I would say, credible because of what is stated of him. He came out of a government, got there and threw them in the bamboo and decided he's going on his own. What happened? He went hands down.
Is that telling us that people prefer a certain kind of transparency, whatever level it might be? Because no, I think his situation is one that should be paid, we should pay attention to, because it is that people are getting fatigued with the party politics. And perhaps an individual who stands forth representing whatever they represent, people are now more willing to say, I'll take my chances with that person.
It seems so. It seems so. Because, I mean, like everything else, they have been saying a lot of things about Jack, but nobody has been able to put a hand on him.
But for one thing, say whatever you like that you might say about Jack, he has been consistent.
That's right. He has been. I have to say so.
And I think that is what people are looking for by and large. A lot of people might say all kinds of other stuff, but what he says he represents, he clearly
Demonstrates that.
And demonstrates it.
He demonstrates it.
As opposed to others who perhaps want to pretend something else, and people say, you know what, I don't really trust you.
People do say that. You can feel it. You can, you know, because, like for example, okay, the government of Tillman Thomas.
Okay, let's take the break first, and then we'll come back with the government of Tillman Thomas. This is this month's edition of Time to Face the Facts, and we're talking about the role of political parties. And remember, we want your calls when we return right after this.
You want the eyes and ears of your customers? Then there's only one place. Caribvision, the authentic channel for all things Caribbean, bringing you Caribbean news, Caribbean sports, Caribbean entertainment, Caribbean travel, and festivals. Advertise on the Caribvision platform, reaching across the Caribbean in over 21 countries, and now in the U.S. market on Cablevision in the New York tri-state area, and coming soon to Canada and the United Kingdom. Email us at sales@cmccaribbean.com. Caribvision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
It's the end of the month again. My son's rent is due. Sending money to your children studying overseas is easy. Western Union's safe and reliable service lets you transfer money everywhere in the world. My son is doing well at school. That makes me proud. Western Union, moving money for better.
Agents in Grenada, Rennick Thompson and Company, with locations in Grenville, Sauterres, Guelph, Granans, the Carenage, Bruce Street, and Carriacou.
If you are serious about business, then log on and participate in Business Advantage. Every Monday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Log on to www.niceradio.info. Business Advantage inspires you to believe that the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. Business Advantage with host Jerry George, mentoring the next generation of Caribbean entrepreneurs. 8 to 10 p.m. Mondays on www.niceradio.info. For further information, email CaribbeanInformationHub@gmail.com. Like the Business Advantage Facebook page or call 1-784-456-5967 to participate.
Welcome back. And I have some good news for those of you who have been trying to call. We had a problem with the phone systems. You can now call. It is sorted. So look at the numbers on the screen and please give us a call. My guest in studio is Mr. PHINSLEY St. and we are discussing the role that political parties are playing. Are you really aware of it? Well, tell us when you call. Yeah, Mr. St. Louis.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that the Tillman Thomas administration, it pride itself in transparency and accountability. And, I mean, that was the watchword. The Grenadian people voted in 2008 because it was said, and what was branded about is that the government that was in office then was corrupt, full of corruption. So NDC came in under Tillman Thomas, transparency and accountability. The government called election in 2012 after having stayed there for nearly 5 years, and the people voted the other government, the previous government, overwhelmingly for all the seats. They got all the 15 seats. Now, what is it that our people are thinking? Transparency and accountability is gone through the window.
No, that has to be added to performance.
Well, of course, I agree. I agree, because there was the poor performance. I mean, say whatever you want. The performance was poor, and of course the infighting was there. So that prevented.
Maybe that was too transparent, the infighting.
The fighting was too transparent. I agree with you. The fighting was too transparent, because that's when I came in with the hope that I could have thrown some cold water on it and hold it together. That didn't work. So, but here again, you have the people voting overwhelmingly. I mean, not even one seat they got for transparency and accountability, not even one. You know, to me, that has been a
No, because what it is
concern.
saying is that the people at the end of the day didn't buy the message.
They didn't buy it. No.
You were selling that, but that's not what the people saw.
That's not what they saw.
That's not what they bought.
The people, as a matter of fact, the people saw that you transparent in your account, but I'm hungry because there was no jobs.
Exactly.
And the party is the party I supported. This is the party that the name of the party is the one that I was part of bringing together. But at the same time, what happened? I'm not satisfied that they function in a way in which you could have given some credibility to business management.
Let's talk about alliances, because we're again here talking about the power of the party. If you listen to elections, for example, I mean, a classic country is Israel. They have just tons of parties, and they always have to have an alliance.
Alliance, all the time.
In the Caribbean, we seem not to have gotten this alliance issue right. Why not?
Well, I suppose because of our size too. Because when you look at it, the fact is, this first past the poll is quite something. I have been looking at political parties and elections. You would find that it is possible for a party to win the election even though they get less votes than the others. In other words, less than 50% of the voting of the voters,
The popular vote, yeah.
popular vote, voted for them, and they can run the government. Because you might find that the people don't understand this, but if you have 3 or 4 parties going into an election, that's quite possible. Thank God it has happened where you just had 2 parties. Wherever you had 2 parties, well, then you get a clear mandate. But at the same time, I've seen it in the past, where less than 50% of the popular votes, and they get to run the government.
But Trinidad has been one of the countries that has tried. We have the NAR right now. We have the People's, what's it called?
The whatever alliance, they have a number of them. I mean, by now I can't even remember.
But even there, it doesn't seem to work, because again, what actually happens is that one of the stronger forces in the party pulls members from the alliance into themselves.
Yes, they do. They do. But I don't know. I mean, Trinidad has what? They have 60 seats in parliament or something?
Yeah, 60, yeah.
And they seem to still have their problems. They seem to still have their problems.
Let me share something with you. I had an opportunity to be at a conference last year with the Seychelles, a minister from Seychelles. And he made a very interesting statement at that conference, that the British never allowed a 2-party system in the Seychelles.
They never allowed a 2-party system.
He says, the British said they learned from the Caribbean, that a 2-party system really is not good. So in Seychelles, there are several parties, and you have to make the government a combination of
all the parties.
He was making the point that when Seychelles found themselves in economic problems after 2008, that was the one thing that allowed them to be able to be back ahead of the curve today.
But it means then that every party that contested had to be able to get a winner.
Yeah. However they structure the Constitution, it is part of the system that is how it has to be.
It's structured that way.
So whoever has to find allegiance with 1 or 2 others, so you always have a diversity of views forming the government. What happens here in the Caribbean? And it brings to the question, there's been a lot of talk about constitutional reform, but clearly, somehow, we have not been able to move forward on that. Any reasons why?
Well, this guy, God, what's his name now? That died suddenly here in Barbados.
Okay, we have a call. Let's take the call first. Hello, good evening. Good evening, caller.
Good evening. Hi, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
I am glad to be a part of this conversation. My concern, especially here in Trinidad and Tobago, is persons and political parties are only concerned about getting rid of the government that is in office and not necessarily having a plan to govern and take the country and the people forward. Also, within the region, we have a lot of, we hear a lot of politicians talk about youth development and youth involvement in politics, but we are not getting that true participation of young people is more lip service, and I would like my colleague from Grenada to comment on that.
Okay, caller, you hear me? Are you hearing me, caller?
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask the question.
Yes, I am.
How, as a young person, you sound like a young person to me. How do you see the political party becoming a problem rather than a solution where you are and generally speaking?
Well, I think more people have to understand why they're getting involved in politics.
Turn the volume,
Not
just do
about
something for me,
your
please.
personal goal, but it's...
Caller, could you turn off your TV? That's
Yes.
what's distracting you. The volume on your TV is slightly delayed.
Yeah, hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, as I was saying before, we have people who are getting into office who are more concerned about office than actually representing the people, looking at the issues and following through with their mandate that they would have put in their manifesto and would have been talking about on the platform. One of the things that we have to do, and there's no checks and balance as the voters, because you have anything to do, nothing to do until that time comes to vote them out.
Again. Thank you.
So you have to bear with them. And the other issue is you have to now pick which of the lesser evil you want to run your country.
Thank you, sir. Very well said. Appreciate your call.
Actually, I agree with him in every way, because what happens is there is an election. An election is a contest. And this is what came very clearly to me. You know your stock in trade is the people out there. You know what they're like. So the contest is what you go at. Not what you're going to do, what you're going to do when you get there. But I'm going to win this contest. And I win it by all costs. Having won it now, I don't care about whether I have to do whatever. I win the contest, and that is the main thing. This is how it strikes me.
We have another caller, Mr. St. Louis. Good evening. Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Could you turn down what you're listening to, please?
Yes, good evening.
Could you turn down what you're listening to?
Yes, good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Speak, we're hearing you.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Go ahead, please, caller.
Hello.
Yeah, I think that caller. Caller who was just on, we were hearing you, but you had your TV up and we couldn't, that was affecting the quality of the call. You can call back and you can continue to speak because we're hearing you clearly. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just making the point that is the contest they try to win.
So you think the contest is the be-all and the end-all?
That's what it strikes me. Because you say things that you believe people will go for. You fight to win. Having won, it's just like the caller from Trinidad said. Having won, does it matter whether you do what you say in the manifesto? Or you do other things? Or you do what you think you like? Or you do what is going to be, that's going to promote you as a person who, well, people will like, you know? And
Hold again, we have a caller and we're going to take the callers now.
Sure.
Good evening and thank you for calling.
Yes, hello.
Yes, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yes, I was calling to let you know that in Trinidad and Tobago we have 42 seats in Parliament and not 60, as you said.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the correction.
42 seats and not 60.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate that.
I think it's Jamaica.
Jamaica is
Jamaica
60,
has 60.
yeah.
Jamaica has 60, yes.
Yeah, but so it's a contest between the two parties. So everybody gets onto this rampage about winning. Who's the best leader?
That's right. Who is going to win that contest? And after they win the contest, does it really matter?
I mean, if it really matters.
No, does
the
it really
people's
matter?
lives at stake.
Yeah, but don't you find that the way some of them behave, it doesn't matter? I say, okay, we're going to deliver. I'm talking about the last election in Grenada. We're going to deliver. We will do all these things for the youths. We have investors line up to come and all that sort of thing. I think Barbados said the same thing.
But, okay, and you're making
were these things really true?
But hold on, you're making a very important point. Do we blame the parties, the leaders, or the people? I think so far in the region, we have let the people of the region off the hook. We have made the people victims, when in truth and in fact, it is us, the people, who cause a lot of this nonsense to continue.
I agree. But you see, the politician is smart enough to realize, and like I say, the people are his stock in trade. And he knows how to play them. And the people themselves aren't prepared to say, no, I am not going to follow this anymore.
Taking our calls. Call from St. Kitts, good evening.
Hello?
Yes, good evening, go ahead.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah?
I've been watching your program, very, very interesting program. My name is Mark Brantley. I'm leader of the opposition in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Ah, you were once.
And I wanted the perspective on the situation that we have now in St. Kitts and Nevis, where we have a motion of no confidence, that the Parliament, the Prime Minister, and the Speaker have refused now for nearly 9 months to table. And we have a situation where we have been reaching out to our regional partners, CARICOM, the OECS, as the case may be. We have heard from PM Gonzalez in St. Vincent indicating that these are internal matters, can't interfere. We have heard similar comments, I believe, from the Prime Minister in Antigua. And I'm just interested in understanding or getting a perspective as to how you feel and your panel there feels about this.
But
whether or not we have to be our neighbor's keeper in the region.
Mr. Brantley,
and whether or not as regional organizations there is an obligation to ensure that the various components, the various countries and territories that make up these organizations, that they adhere to the basic constitutional principles and democratic principles that we all hold dear.
I think you have left out one person who has been championing this cause, and it is the leader of the opposition.
I regret I'm not hearing you.
Okay, I'm saying the leader of the opposition in St. Vincent. In St. Vincent has been championing your cause. So you only mentioned two governments, but you have not mentioned the leader of the opposition in St. Vincent. And
well, I don't let the leader of the opposition in St. Vincent has been championing our cause. I think he has been championing the cause of democracy in the region.
Isn't that your cause?
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry?
Isn't that your cause?
Of course, that is also our cause.
But you seem to have made it an exclusive, mutually exclusive. I couldn't understand what you were saying there. But let me ask you a question.
No. What I'm trying to say is that the leader of the opposition in St. Vincent is championing the cause of democracy, as I believe all of us ought to do for the region.
I agree.
This notion that we can ignore the democratic principles in one constituent element while claiming to adhere to it in others, it's, in my mind, and to my mind, problematic. And I just wanted your view on it, because we had a Grenadian on the panel, and this was...
Let me ask you a question.
We started in Grenada with the Tillman Thomas administration, where Parliament was prorogued rather than having a motion of no confidence debated.
I want to go to something else. How many organizations have written to the government in St. Kitts? How many of the organizations, civil organizations that is?
How many of the organizations have done what? I'm sorry?
How many of your civil organizations have written to the government?
I don't know how many have written to the government. I can tell you that the opposition, and we of course control a majority of the elected representatives in Parliament currently in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we have written to everyone. We've written to CARICOM, we've written to all the regional leaders and the leaders of the opposition.
Haven't you had the Chamber of Commerce write to the government and other such organizations?
The Chamber has written, the churches have written, every facet of civil society, the Bar Association has written. The government here is unmoved, a minority government, and the region is unmoved.
So, the discussion today is the role of the political party. What role is the political party as a whole playing in terms of supporting the government?
Well, that's an interesting question that you asked, because of course the government is in KITS, the minority government that now exists, has had some defections from it. Where we have the Labour Party that obviously was elected in 2010. They're halfway through the term, but they've had some defections. And so that majority, the one-seat majority that they held has now been reduced. And so they no longer hold a majority. Those individuals have crossed the floor and are now sitting with us in opposition, giving us that majority. Yeah, and so that is the reason why the motion of no confidence has not been brought to the floor, because we understand that it will fail.
But have you been going to the parliament at all?
That is, the government understands that it will fail. The opposition understands that the motion will succeed.
Okay, Mr. St. Louis is asking a question.
Has the parliament been sitting since this motion? Has the parliament been sitting at all, having any sittings?
Yes, indeed. The parliament has sat. The parliament sat to pass a budget. They have since come back with a raft of legislation, one thing or the other. We actually took this matter to the court. And the parliament, the speaker said, because the matter was in the court, it was sub judice, he could not consider it. We therefore withdrew the matter from the court. The speaker then came and filed an application in the court to have the matter continued, to say that we could not withdraw it from the court. And so we are in a fine mess here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And it seems to me that the region, and I get back to the regional aspect of it, this is a regional program, but the region has not, in our view, really looked at this and commented on it. And kudos to Arne Eustace, because he's the only one who has really spoken up and said anything. Everybody else seems to be treating this as business as usual. And I wonder if in Grenada, in Barbados, in Trinidad, or wherever else, if this type of unparliamentary behavior would be acceptable.
Question for you. Are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, I am.
Okay. If there was to be an election tomorrow, who's going to win in St. Kitts?
You're asking me to be a soothsayer.
Really? I mean, if you're saying things are so bad, hasn't the opposition rallied enough of their support to be confident of victory?
Oh, we are very confident of victory. But before we even get to that point, I'm just speaking to the issue now of the proper parliamentary procedure in the region. And that is what I'm really trying to invite some comment on, as to whether or not that, in your view, is acceptable behavior for a country that is a constituent element of OECS of CARICOM, as the case may be.
This program certainly does not support what is happening in St. Kitts. In fact, our last program dealt with that with the other opposition leader of the party in St. Kitts. He was actually here with us. So Time to Face the Facts certainly does not support what is going on in St. Kitts at the moment. I know people have found ways to legitimize it by saying it fits this and it doesn't break that rule and the next rule. Morally, I feel it's wrong.
Morally, it's wrong. It's wrong morally.
But thank you for your call. We have to go to a break at this point.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going for a break at this point on this edition of Time to Face the Facts. We'll be right back with much more.
It's the end of the month again. My son's rent is due. Sending money to your children studying overseas is easy. Western Union's safe and reliable service lets you transfer money everywhere in the world. My son is doing well at school. That makes me proud. Western Union, moving money for better.
Agents in Grenada, Rennick Thompson and Company, with locations in Grenville, Sauterres, Guelph, Grand Anse, the Carenage, Bruce Street, and Carriacou.
If you are serious about business, then log on and participate in Business Advantage. Every Monday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Log on to www.niceradio.info. Business Advantage inspires you to believe that the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. Business Advantage with host Jerry George, mentoring the next generation of Caribbean entrepreneurs. 8 to 10 p.m. Mondays on www.niceradio.info. For further information, email CaribbeanInformationHub@gmail.com. Like the Business Advantage Facebook page or call 1-784-456-5967 to participate.
If you want the eyes and ears of your customers, then there's only one place. Caribvision, the authentic channel for all things Caribbean, bringing you Caribbean news, Caribbean sports, Caribbean entertainment, Caribbean travel, and festivals. Advertise on the Caribvision platform, reaching across the Caribbean in over 21 countries, and now with the U.S. market on Cablevision in the New York tri-state area, and coming soon to Canada and the United Kingdom. Email us at sales@cmccaribbean.com. Caribvision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
Welcome back. The role of the role of political parties, in governance. Mr. PHINSLEY St. Louis is my guest in studio. Earlier we had Mr. Peter Wickham. I kept him awake in France, maybe sleepover took him eventually. And we're also taking your calls. Your calls are really the most important thing for us at this point in time. We've spoken a lot, right, Mr. St. Louis? But let me ask you, the structure of the political system at the moment seems geared, or it seems that the people in charge of the system, their bent is simply to stay in power, and it has nothing to do with the environmental issues.
Well, that is one of my concerns. As I see it, it is a question of doing whatever is going to keep me in power. And it brings me to the question of governments raising loans for projects that are non-productive or income generating. So you get these loans because you will create some jobs or you will do something, but at the same time, it's not income generating so that it can pay back. And you don't get the benefits from it. But just to stay in power and say, well, okay, money has been flowing, things have been happening. When you get these loans, eventually, and it has happened in the previous NNP administration, where the debt rose considerably, and as a result, the government that came in was strapped. Now, my concern is, if these loans are not programmed properly to be able to generate income, it means that our youthful population will find themselves in a more serious situation than we are at present. And what
we have a call. Sorry. So let's take the call. Good evening, and thank you for calling.
Yes, could you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear.
I could hardly hear you. You're very faint.
Okay, but go ahead. We're hearing.
You're very faint. I could hardly hear you.
Go ahead. We're hearing you.
Anyhow, let me just say, I'm not a student of politics. But because politics affects our daily life, everybody has to have an interest. That said, I would like to make a few points. To me, politics is a special type of business. It's the politics of getting politicians have to get elected and re-elected. And most of the decisions that are made, and I'm making a general statement, most of the decisions that are made by politicians are not necessarily rooted based on economic analysis. It has more to do with political expediency. And this is not necessarily so in the Caribbean. I believe it's happening globally. So Mr. St. Louis made a couple of comments, and he said that based on the mock parliament by the youngsters in Grenada, that he has some hope that there would be a change in the future. I think that is being idealistic, because from my own vantage point, whenever one gets elected, even though they're well-intended, the system consumes them. And they too become very much like what is happening in the general political population. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So the question is, what most politicians, there is an investment in self. There's no other investment. So self-interest is really the key to the political business. Let me just put it this way. Just like how you would have, if you were to do an analysis of the economy, you'd have to look at the national situation, and then you'd have to look at the specific industry. In terms of the political parties, this just happens to be part of the parties are part of the industry, and the mechanism is the national. And I think it would be foolhardy to think that we could have a change because whether it's one party, two party, or three parties. And that's just a point, those are a couple of points I just wanted to make.
Yeah, but before you go, I mean, we have to change because certainly...
I can hardly hear you.
What I'm saying is that what is happening...
I can hardly hear you.
Are you hearing me now?
I have to listen off here because I can hardly hear you.
Okay, all right then, okay. Well, we seem to have lost that call. I wanted to ask him a question though. And he says it's difficult to change. But is it that we have to just continue where we are? Because certainly, if we do, we are not going to end up anywhere that is going to be of any significance to us. So how do we fix this? And folks calling, that is what I want from you. How can we fix this? We can't just throw our hands in the air and say, we can't fix this. This has to be fixed. But let's just take a break at this point in time on this edition of Time to Face the Facts.
If you are serious about business, then log on and participate in Business Advantage. Every Monday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Log on to www.niceradio.info. Business Advantage inspires you to believe that the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. Business Advantage with host Jerry George, mentoring the next generation of Caribbean entrepreneurs. 8 to 10 p.m. Mondays on www.niceradio.info. For further information, email CaribbeanInformationHub@gmail.com. Like the Business Advantage Facebook page or call 1-784-456-5967 to participate.
If you want the eyes and ears of your customers, then there's only one place. Caribvision, the authentic channel for all things Caribbean, bringing you Caribbean news, Caribbean sports, Caribbean entertainment, Caribbean travel, and festivals. Advertise on the Caribvision platform, reaching across the Caribbean in over 21 countries, and now in the U.S. market on Cablevision in the New York tri-state area, and coming soon to Canada and the United Kingdom. Email us at sales@cmccaribbean.com. Caribvision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
Okay, and we're back. Yeah, the whole question of it's just being a purely party staying in power activity rather than dealing with the developmental issue. But most importantly, it is that critical information is withheld from the party and from the population at large.
Critical information is being held from the party and from the population at large. It has happened, and it is happening. It has happened in the previous government. Because
I just don't want to look at your government because I believe what is
well,
true
it happened,
is symptomatic around the region.
It's symptomatic. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But
But how is it that in a day when there is much more access to information, people should be, we have all kinds of devices now. So how is it how people still could claim that they don't know?
Well, it depends on what the party, what the government, you see, you have to look at government and party.
Right.
When these guys are in parliament, they call themselves the government, right? And they lose contact at some times with the party itself, the party per se, because a lot of things they do with the cabinet, they don't pass that information or get consensus or discussion with the party itself.
Well, remember earlier I said they have a mandate.
Well, yes, you say they have a mandate, but the fact is, as long as they are going to continue to operate like that, they will be disjointed.
Let me give you a situation that happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The manifesto of the ruling party was laid as a document of the House.
As a document of the House. So then, that means everybody who has to operate with this government must be part of it.
Yeah.
This is what it.
That is precisely what it means. But do we really understand what that means?
This should never be. Because, like we agree, the party is not recognized by the parliament. So how could the party document become now a document of the parliament?
It's some of the issues for discussion, for broad discussion in our region, because a lot of these things are happening and nobody's really discussing them. They're just being accepted.
Something like that, CARICOM should be appraised of it.
Who?
The CARICOM Secretariat has to be appraised of it, and discussion has to flow around that as to whether this is a proper procedure and what gives rise to something like this, and what would be what could be the outcome, what is anticipated as a result of this having been done. What is the reason for doing it? There must be reasons.
It was quite clear. The Prime Minister made it clear that, listen, if you did not support what the manifesto represents,
that document,
you literally cannot be put in a position to see it through. I don't think that says it's cloudy in any way.
So in other words, every public servant has to adhere to that document. Otherwise, you are going to be in
You're a wise old man, Mr. Ziplo. You're a wise old man.
No, I mean, come on.
That's all I can say, but it could be the only thing that it meant. And therefore, we have to look very carefully at how we sit back and stay quiet about the role. But again, I'm saying, how you're a person who started a party, who has been influential in a party, how do you find the people themselves who belong to the party care about how things go?
That is my concern too. You see, you get there and you raise issues, and you will find you get sidelined by a section of the group, of the party executive. You get sidelined because why are you raising that for? You want to create, you want to create disturbance. Whereas these are matters that you know, because of the way the party is structured, because of the constitution of the party, and that is what I'm trying to hold. The way the party come together, the benefits is for the people.
Should be.
That is what we said. That is what the party, the benefits should be. The party benefits is for the people. But somehow, people are willing to take it away, get away from that, and let us do our thing, because we know best. And when they do it, it comes down negative, then everybody pays. Everybody pays. Everybody gets hurt. But if these decisions that are taken, and mind you, I say that there is the government as against the party, because these guys, when they get into
office... But why doesn't the members of the party, when they recognize the government is going away from what they agreed, why isn't the party structure saying something?
Well, you remember I quoted George Brizan's statement just now? Because you see, you will always get some for and some against. You will always get those who are willing to say.
There must be some kind of leadership that is still in the system that must say, listen, this needs to be told.
Yeah, but the leadership of the system is the leader of is the government.
We have a call from not Grenada, from Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening. Thank you for calling. Hello?
Gentlemen, good night.
Good night.
What an interesting discourse, and one which is coming to us in this period or era of transformation as a region. You could not have been more forthright and objective, nor more pointing as you have articulated in your exchanges as I continue to listen to your discourse, sipping a very cold glass of water. And I said sipping because that is what I'm doing. You're taking more of my time than I'm concentrating on the water. I am a business person and an ex-banker who once occupied the corridors of senior management at the level of the banking inspectorate. So that I understand the discourse from the standpoint of checks and balances and the overall legitimacy of transparency. Looking at it from a public sector perspective, however, I could not agree with you more that once politicians, as we are experiencing in Trinidad and Tobago, get into office, all hell breaks loose. In fact, I can simply and put it very clearly to you, Trinidad is in a total mess with this first past the post system, and I agree with you. There is something we need to do as a people if we have to take advantage of the importance and the critical platforms of transgression so that we can reach the commanding heights in terms of economic benefits. Thank you. I'm continuing to listen, and God bless you guys.
Thank you. Sip that water. Thanks, caller. And I think that there's definitely, from my own experience, there's a fatigue out there in the region. People are disgruntled, they are unhappy, but the problem is they don't know how to move forward. We have to wait for, maybe we don't have the culture of the people of the Middle East, of Egypt, for example.
Would proportionate representation help the situation, you think?
Well, we're looking at that in Guyana, and it has its own issues. And one of the reasons why we are struggling is because of the culture of the region. Our culture is what gets in the way. And what one of the writers I was reading recently was saying is this, is that the Westminster system panders, and Peter Wickham said it earlier, panders to a culture in which people have a different sense of being.
That's right.
Whereas in the Caribbean, it opens itself to abuse. So, it still comes down to us trying to find an answer to how we fix this.
To me, proportional participation can make a difference to us in these parts, because here I would like to, look at the Grenada situation. 30,000 voted for the government in office. 20,000, I mean, just calling the figures. 20,000 voted for the one. By 10,000 difference, we lost, the other side has no representation whatsoever in the parliament.
Something has to be wrong with that system.
Something is wrong with the system. And we really need to do something about it. Oh God, what's the name of my friend? He used to be a lecturer here in...
You have a call from the Cayman Islands. This is a long way away. Good evening, and thank you for calling. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, I just would like to congratulate you on the wonderful program you had tonight. Comments I support lean towards Mr. PHINSLEY comments. I think it's the nail on the head. But I think the problem with our political system is, or leaders, is that we've gone away from ethics to being ethical in our conduct, and also we give this title to our politicians, honorable. And we are not, our politicians are acting as honorable men when they get in the house. You know, so if they get this title of honorable, they need to work under being honorable men. You know, going back many years ago, to be the dream of every man be an honorable man. That is word what is born, to speak the truth, to do things in open and upright to benefit all. And this is where we have fallen down. Unless we change this and come back to what's right and truth, we will be no better. Also on the party system there, somewhere in the party, we need to be able to, if a leader or whoever does wrong, the party needs to deal with that person and put him out of the party. You know, this is what happens. This is what happens with the party. You know, and we cover it up. And, you know, we need to deal with it. So many times the leader of the party will control the party. That's the wrong, gentlemen. You know, and until, you know, we as a people deal with these issues, we will never be any better. I support Mr. Singlet's hope that the young parliamentarians, because we do have young parliamentarians, you know, from time to time here in the Cayman Islands, and it's the caliber of debate I see there. It puts the parliamentarians to shame, you know. I
you have to wrap it up because we run out of time.
You know, that our the leaders that we elect I know you were speaking, but I couldn't hear you, so let me just finish, and then I'll turn off and then hear your comment.
Caller, we have to go. We have to go.
So the thing is that our...
Okay, we're sorry that
you come too faint, I can't hear your voice. So let me finish, and then I'll turn the TV on, and then you can give your comments. Just saying that it comes right back down to this, that our leaders that we elect have to be honorable men and women and ethical men and women, that they will run and operate the country for the country as a whole. Also, I think the party...
Okay, we must leave that caller because we are in our last moments in terms of wrap-up.
Work together
we must leave that caller.
The country instead of getting it here.
Yes, I'm sorry we have to cut that caller because we've been told that we have to wrap this up. Mr. St. Louis, your final words, sir?
It is my hope that the parties, the members who form the executive of parties, will be strong enough to be able to talk plainly to the representatives in government. That is, to be able to say, we agree or we disagree, and that it doesn't come down like if you dislike somebody, but it is because what we stand for must be truth. What we stand for must be to develop the country generally for our people and not for personal gains.
Thank you very much. This has been this month's edition of Time to Face the Facts. Mr. PHINSLEY St. Louis has been our guest in studio. Online earlier we had Mr. Peter Wickham. And I want to thank all of those of you who have called for joining us this evening. I'm Jerry George. Until the next program, so long.